off with our double Viking knit. We're going to do exactly like we did in normal Viking knit. So I am using a topper here that is made out of 26 gauge wire, and that's what I'm going to be weaving with. You can still use your 24 gauge wire, and you can still do a topper that is a reusable topper, just like I talked about in the Viking knit video. But we're going to start the process the same exact way. So I'm going to make that loop that I made last week, where we want the wire to go behind itself like this. So our little tail is here on the back side, and our long wire is going to be on the inside. And I'm going to pick any of these loops to start with. So I'm going to pick this one. I'm just going to pop it in, and then I'm going to pull that loop a little bit tighter there. I'm going to see if I can. There we go. Okay. Then I'm going to come through the next loop. Remember, behind and in front like this, and pull through. And you want to be careful here. We want to make our bridges or our loops between the loops here. So I want to be careful and make sure that we have that and we've not pulled that too tight. So I'm just going to turn it. I'm coming behind and through. And again, I'm going to pull the loop and have a bridge here. And I'm going to continue to do this around the piece as I work. Just making sure I have my little bridge there and a loop. And you'll want to be careful if you are jumping from the 24 gauge down to a 26 gauge. It's going to be easier to kind of get this wire kinked. So you want to be very careful as you work if you drop down to a 26 gauge. But like I said, you can still do this with your 24 gauge. Okay, so I've added my last loop and I am back to the beginning of the weave here. So I'm going to take the wire, and this row, I'm going to not go, through these again, but I'm going to go behind row 1. So I'm just going to I'm not going through the loop, I'm going behind the loop. So I'm going to do that. And when I pull that, I now have my next loop there. So then I go behind, making sure that I have my bridge, and my bridge is apart from each other. And I'm just going to continue to work this. And because I'm doing the double Viking knit, I'm trying to be a little bit more easy and making sure that I really get these loops good. So if you have not practiced your Viking knit a good bit, I would suggest you practice it so that you're consistent in your loops as you work. Because if not, this one is going to be much harder to try and pay attention to. So I've continued to work around until I'm back to the beginning. And I know this is the beginning because this is where my tail thread, or I knew I was going to say thread, my tail wire is at. So when we do double Viking knit, we count up 2 from the bottom. So normally here we would go under this loop that we just made to start the row. But in double Viking knit, we're going to count up 2 loops. We're going to count up 1, 2, and we are going to go behind that first loop again, basically, is what we're going to be doing in this row. So I'm counting up 1, 2, and pulling through. And again, you want to make sure your bridge is even there and not pulled too far apart. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to go 1, 2, and I'm going to come up and come behind those loops there. Now, this is where you have to be really careful because you see where that pulled pretty tight there. I'm going to take my awl and try to loosen that up so it's a little bit more even and consistent, because if not, you are going to have a really hard time as you work your way down. So again, 1, 2, come behind the loop. Okay. 1, 2, come behind your loop. And again, if you find that you're not getting a loop, you may have to manipulate it for the first row or two that you do here of that, because you need to have those seen very clearly as you're working. And a way to do that is to put your thumb under your wire that's here, that where your major loop, kind of put your thumb there, and as you come behind that first loop, it kind of helps to hold it there so you don't have to worry about it. Now, I am finishing the last one here, and I'm back to the beginning. So remember, I said we're going to count up 2 loops. So 1, 2. So this time, instead of coming up here, I'm going to go here behind this loop, and I'm going to come straight across through it. So 1, 2, and I'm going to come behind that, so that now you can see what that looks like. So come to the next one, 1, 2, and you'll see I'm going to come behind those 2 loops there. Put my thumb there, count up 1, 2, 1, 2, and come behind those. So it's just like our normal Viking knit. We're doing the same technique. It's just now, instead of coming behind the last one that we did, we're counting up 2. So it's double. So 1, 2, go behind. And you'll notice if you were, well, not that one, don't go behind the same one for sure. Put your thumb there. 1, 2. And you'll notice as I work, my columns here, you can see how they're doubled up, and that's why we call it double Viking knit, because our loops are going to be basically on top of each other as we build these columns. So I'm going to continue to work around, and you'll see here I'm back to the beginning because this is where that tail wire is. So again, I'm going to count up 2, 1, 2, and you'll see that this time when I come through, you'll see now that I've come down 2 from the top. The biggest thing is just make sure 1, 2, 1, 2, pull through. Okay, so 1, 2, pull through. 1, 2, pull through. 1, 2, pull through. 1, 2, pull through. And again, this is why we try to keep those little bridges that we're building, we try to keep them consistent. See, that one got a little tight there, so I can take and open it up a little bit, because if not, I'm going to have trouble counting those loops. Okay, so I finished that one, and I'm going back to the start again. So this time, again, 1, 2, and I come through. So you can see how that is looking. So I'm going to continue just like this until I use up my wire, and I can show you how to add your new wire. So I did quite a bit so you could see actually what it looks like as you are weaving. Now, when you get ready to add your wire, you can finish out the last loop exactly like you normally would. And you see here, I've got a little bit of my wire left. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up 1, 2, so 1, 2, and I'm going to take my short piece of wire and I'm going to go from left to right behind that loop there for 1, let's see, nope, 1, 2, yep. So I actually have to go 2 here, 3 here, 1, 2, 3, because that is the loop right there that I just went behind, because I already made the loop here. So I'm going to, just like in Viking knit, I'm going to mimic the way that that loop looks with my wire, and then I'm just going to continue to weave. So I'm just going to kind of hold those for just a minute, and then I'm going to start back coming, you know, behind the 2 wires, just like I have been, and I'm just going to continue to weave. So I'm going to weave all the way around. And then when I come back around and I get back to that beginning part again, I can take and lift up behind those loops. And remember, I want to have these wires as I work. These wires will be woven in as well, just like with the Viking knit. So that way they will be woven in and you won't have to worry about any pieces sticking you as you work. So that is how easy it is to add our wire, just like we did with our normal Viking knit. And then you will just continue to weave your wire until you have the length that you want. So once you have the length you want and you take it off your dowel, hopefully you'll have something that looks similar to this. Now, because I used that 26 gauge here at the top, I can use this to pull through the draw plate. So remember, right now it's about 5/8 is what it is right now, because I didn't have to pull hardly at all through that one. But now let's go to 9/16. Remember, I pulled through it twice there. Okay, now half, and this is where I'm feeling a little bit of a tug as I pull through. And then we got 7/16. Oh, look at that. Now 3/8. So you can see, let me see if I can zoom in so you can see. Look at the difference right there. Look at how that changes it by pulling that through. So that one, again, is the 3/8. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull it through one more time. Okay, the next one is 5/16. So now let's look at this one when we pull it through. Okay, so look at the difference there when you get that pulled through. The tube is starting to look really different. And it's starting to really lengthen. Okay, now I'm going to go down to 1/4. And again, look at the difference. See how it's pulling and really elongating the look of this chain now? Okay, so that one's really hard to pull through. Okay, now I'm going to do 7/32. You can see there how it's changing to 3/16. All right, now you can really see how it's really pulling and really elongating that now. This was already elongated, but by pulling it through that 3/16, you can see we're really getting that elongated look. Pull it through again. Okay, I think I'm going to go on down to 532. I mean, we're already there. Let's keep it going, see what it looks like. Let me see if I can grab a hold of it here. Make a really... Okay, look at that. That is 532. And look at the difference. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I love pulling it through the draw plate because every time you're going to get a completely different look. All right, so this is at the 532 range, and you can see, whoops, let's go back, not forward. You can see there that it's still flexible, still pretty flexible at this point. And so you could still use it into whatever you want. I don't think I'm going to try it. But you can see there what that difference in your piece is going to look like for the double Viking knit versus your normal Viking knit. You're going to get a more open weave with the normal, but this is beautiful, and I cannot wait to see what you guys do with it. You can see there the openness of the single Viking knit versus how we pulled it through on the double Viking knit. So guys, I hope you were able to build upon your Viking knit skills to learn how to do the double Viking knit. It's a fun technique, and it just builds upon what we learned in last week's videos. You're going to put ends on it just like you did with your normal Viking knit. So I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with the double Viking knit. Make sure to check my channel and come back next time where we will do another fun beading project. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.